Hi, everybody joining us on YouTube.
Hi, YouTubers.
This is going to be our record session for episode 247 of the Flicker Effect podcast. We haven't started recording yet.
It's Sunday, right?
It is.
Sunday?
It is Sunday.
Someday in March.
It is Sunday, the 25th of March.
Awesome. I don't keep track of the date, like the dates on the weekends, like the actual date. Like I have no idea.
I don't think most people do.
It's like
I know because
like
it
that Monday,
says right here on this computer in front
it's
of me.
like that Monday morning in the office. You're like, "What's the date? Oh, look at that! We bounced up like 5 days. Cool."
All right.
I don't know.
5 days. You don't keep track of 5 days.
That's what I think it feels like. Like I feel like I'd walk into the office and turn everything on, and I'm like, "What is today's date? I don't even know." And I look, I'm like, "Oh wow, that seems like a lot further than the last time I looked at that."
Michelle just drifts through life, not knowing.
I do actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nothing on that. Wow.
Don't tell anyone.
All right, so as part of this YouTube pre-show, before we start the podcast, I do have questions for everyone. Has anyone here seen Tomb Raider?
Yes.
Oh, Bobby.
has seen Tomb Raider.
Yasha?
Oh, Bobby. I have not.
Yeah,
You have
I
not?
didn't either. You know what? And I'm sad that I haven't, honestly. 'Cause I like Tomb Raider.
I want to see it.
I'm a Lara Croft believer.
I'm going to guess no one here has seen Sherlock Gnomes.
That's a big, big positive there.
I'm going to
big no on my
also
side.
assume that no one here has seen I Can Only Imagine.
What is that?
No.
What is that?
You know me so well.
Christian-based film, right?
You know me so well.
Yeah, it's been at number 3 for what? 2 weeks in a row?
I mean, it's done pretty well, actually.
It is.
I will say,
Sure.
those good Christians are getting out to the theaters. Good on them.
Cool.
They're holding their own. They're supporting their peoples.
Then I think that's all I got for the top 5 then. Since I know the answers to Pacific, or Jascha, have you seen Pacific Rim? Uprising?
I watched it today.
Ah,
Oh.
I know. Didn't expect that, did you?
I wasn't sure.
I was gonna say, who knows what my answer is? Who knows?
Oh, I'm gonna go with negatory on that.
I was gonna say,
Michelle.
I bet you Vegas. The odds in Vegas are pretty solid right now.
Probably.
Yeah. And then you know what would have been funny is if I had seen it.
I would have been surprised.
Not only would you have been surprised, but I'm pretty sure people would have been owing each other money at this point.
Right.
Oh man, I thought I had that.
She hasn't even seen the first one.
Dude. Oh, here's the 50. Yeah, you're right. Damn.
It's a race as to which one you would actually see first, a Fast and the Furious movie or Pacific Rim 2.
Nice. Or a Pacific Rim movie in general.
Yeah,
Oh.
now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some Fast and Furious.
That's true.
That's true.
Some Fast and Furious, not a lot though.
All right. Anybody got anything before we start?
Happy Palm Sunday. If we do have those religious believers.
We're live.
We're live. We're on YouTube.
Yeah, we are on YouTube
We're
right
officially
now.
hi YouTube. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, happy Palm Sunday. That much church going I have in me. I know it's Palm Sunday.
You know more than me.
So
And I know last week was Ash Sunday, right?
You talking about Ash Wednesday?
Or Ash Wednesday.
No,
there it
that's
is.
that's in February, isn't it? That's
Oh yeah, that's the start, right? Yeah, see.
yeah.
My
Just let it go.
Catholicism fails me, clearly. Yeah.
All right. So with that, why don't we record a podcast, guys?
I know on Sunday it's gonna be Easter.
Ugh. All right, Michelle.
All right.
What? That's where the bunny came and saved him and took him out of a cave, right?
Oh, God. Okay,
wow.
we're gonna hit record now. Stop. Please stop.
I wish I could see the video because I don't know if you guys have been drinking or not.
If what?
Okay.
Well,
if Michelle's been drinking or not.
Well, if you look on camera, there's a happy
Right.
little drink right between Spider-Man and
Right.
Panther
and
over
the
here.
Black Panther.
It's gonna be one of those shows.
She put two superheroes around to guard it.
That's right, I did. It's better than having a dog guarded.
All right, here we go. It is Sunday, March 25th, 2018, and welcome to Flicker Effect. In this episode, Bobby will be filling us in on this weekend's WonderCon. We've got some box office records and disappointments to discuss. And as many of you are probably aware, a little trailer dropped last weekend, the new Avengers Infinity War trailer, so we still have to talk about that. By the way, I'm David Lotz. Joining me this week is Bobby Jackson.
Hey, what's up there,
Yasha
everybody?
Wilson.
Sorry, didn't mean to step on your introduction to
It's
Yasha.
not Michelle, it's you, Bobby. Somebody is stepping all over my flow here, man.
Somebody took way longer in their response than I expected, and I'm all thrown off now. Anyway, Yasha, welcome, Yasha.
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
We're good, we're good. And Michelle Hillard is here.
Hi, everybody. I'm here. Hello. Not stepping on toes. Yet.
All right, let's get right to it. WonderCon was this weekend. It's about 5:15 out there on the West Coast, so I'm going to assume that WonderCon is probably now officially over.
Yeah.
Bobby, you had a 3-day badge for WonderCon, is that right? How was it?
I did. Oh man, it was something else. It was really the first year I felt like WonderCon had the same type of vibe and feeling for me as San Diego Comic-Con, because typically
Wow.
I'd say up until this year when I went to WonderCon, I could go on one day and have been okay in terms of like getting to see the floor and getting to see maybe a panel or two that I'd be interested in. And I'd call it a weekend pretty much. But this weekend it was different. There was a decent amount of stuff going on each day that made me want to go. And so I did all 3 days. And I guess I'll give you sort of a semi rundown of some of the stuff that I got to see and do. On Friday, I pretty much stayed. It was reminiscent of a Thursday/Friday in San Diego, because I spent most of the day on Friday standing in a line, just waiting to get a pass, because
What's that
earlier
like?
in the what's that, Michelle?
What's that like? Not a clue.
Oh yeah, yeah, standing in a line. So I was standing in line because their Paramount had mentioned earlier in the week that they were going to have a screening for a movie, which they didn't announce initially, and then the next day they mentioned that it was going to be A Quiet Place, and so they said, okay, you got to go get tickets at this booth. So at the booth, they were giving out tickets at 3:30, 4:30, and 5:30. I think I got in the line probably around 3 o'clock, but the tickets were sent out in batches, and I missed the first batch and I missed the second batch, but I was able to get a ticket in the third batch. So I ended up waiting about a good 2.5 hours to be able to get the ticket to go see the movie. And the movie itself was playing at Downtown Disney's theater that's in the Disney area. So it started at 8, and I ended up going over there maybe an hour and a half after I ended up getting the ticket. And so then I got over there and waited again in another line for a good like hour and a half. And so I was like, okay, this is the majority of my day for Friday waiting. But I have to say, after seeing the movie, it was well worth me waiting in line. The movie is, if anyone's seen the preview for it's a movie with John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, and they have these kids as well. And in the trailer, they're being very, very quiet. And then you see at one point in the trailer, a kid knocks over this lantern, and then John Krasinski's character puts out the fire, and then you hear something within the house, something that's moving pretty fast. And so this movie I thought was really well done in terms of the way that it was shot, the way that it uses silence throughout most of the movie, and it plays on every aspect of tension and intensity that you can muster because everything is so quiet, and then any little noise is going to be amplified just because of the fact that it's using that sound to the effect to be able to give you that maximum amount of scare and thrill. And it was just so good. I have to say, for John Krasinski, this being his directorial debut, I think he knocked it out of the park. To me, it felt like when I saw last year and I watched um, Get Out, and coming out of Get Out, and how I felt like after seeing that movie, that's sort of how I felt coming out of A Quiet Place. It really had me thinking. And even I remember waking up the next morning and I was thinking about that movie still. So I was like, this is definitely one of those movies for me as a horror fan that once it comes out on Blu-ray, I would absolutely buy it because it feels like something that would go into a nice horror collection, because it really does that job of offering up scares and providing people with those thrills that you would want to go see when you see a horror type movie of this caliber.
That's really good news to
Let me
hear
ask you
because
a
I've been
question.
curious about that film for a little while, and
It's good.
that makes me excited.
What'd you say, Yasha?
I wanted to ask, I was like, how long do you think roughly did they go without like actually having a word said? Like that's something that I was kind of really curious
Right.
about. It's just like, you know, because I can tell that they're going to use the silence as a real catalyst to basically help creating that fear, which I think is great in movies, especially horror films. And I think you all know that I'm not the biggest Emily Blunt fan, but I'm really excited about seeing this movie, and not just because of John Krasinski's in it, but I really like the idea of it. So I'm genuinely curious as to exactly how long, maybe before they started talking, or if they did get a chance to start talking, or if you just like a ballpark when the first, you know, after the credits had rolled, like how long it was before they actually, you know, you heard a sound.
Well, okay, so that's actually two different questions because a sound is different than someone speaking because one does come before the other. But I will say, in terms of someone actually talking, it's a good while because after you really start to sink into the idea and the fact that they're not talking and that they're using sign language and other means of communication to be able to get their thoughts conveyed. And so you kind of forget that they're not talking after a while. So when they actually do, it's kind of like, whoa, I forgot about the idea that they could actually speak. So it's a good amount of time into the movie before you really do hear somebody actually say words. But it's so well done and put together that honestly, I think it's going to be a big hit when it comes out. What is it, in 2 weeks or next week? It's really going to, I think, get people talking. It's going to be that movie this year that I think that will be the one that everyone's going to go see. And if they didn't see it the opening weekend, they're going to go see it that next weekend because I believe I'm probably going to go see it again when it actually comes out because I really enjoyed it that much.
I mean,
Wow.
I'm curious to know like how strong the score is for this film because I feel like when you have a film that is going to be concentrating so much on there not being speaking or really a lot of noise per se, like
Mm-hmm.
how I mean the score has to be pretty strong because it's going to have to build up to certain like emotional like heights and lows and throughout the film. So I'm assuming it's got to be pretty decent, right?
Well, okay, so when it comes to score, I honestly don't recall much of score other than when there is some, it's used to the effect in terms of which it applies to the scene. So when the movie is quiet, especially in the beginning, I don't remember there being any type of background music, any score at all. So it really sticks to the idea of silence being the
Mm.
main way of communicating what's going on and the vibe and the seriousness of what's effectively going on within the film. So I think after now that I'll see it a second time, I'll actually probably pay more attention to see when the score kind of does kick
Kind of
in
jumps
and
in.
at what points. But yeah.
I mean, I can see them also just letting the silence speak volumes. I mean, up until I guess whatever it is that's following them or it's waiting to attack, basically.
Right.
Like, I'm sure it builds at some point at that point, but I mean, yeah, I guess it's kind of cool. Like, I'm curious. Like, the whole film as a whole has been very intriguing.
Yeah, it's man, it's really good. I
Well, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, definitely liked it a lot.
Anything else from WonderCon to talk about?
Oh yeah, so that was my Friday pretty much. Just waiting to get to see that, and then Saturday was again sort of like a Hall H experience because on Saturday I sat in the room they call the arena for pretty much the entire day, and it started off the first thing that they showed was the full length feature presentation for Batman Ninja. And I don't know if you guys had heard about this, but it's the story is Batman and some of his rogues gallery get transported back to feudal Japan, and so Batman has to kind of rely on just his wits and his only inner self to help try and bring down these villains that are now in this past time. And you get a really varied rogues gallery. You got like Poison Ivy in there. You've got the Joker, obviously. You've got Penguin. I believe Deathstroke's in there. Um, Gorilla Grodd. There's a lot of people in it, and so the animation is straight up Japanese anime style. And for anyone that loves that type of that that kind of animation is really going to be in for a treat because it's done really really well, and it has a lot of anime tropes in it. And I think overall I thought it was okay. um I think my part in it for where it kind of faltered was the delivery of some of the lines by the voice actors. The voice acting in and of itself was pretty good, but sometimes the line deliveries felt a little flat. And then there were some things within the actual movie itself that I don't know in terms of story points or the way it was portrayed. I just felt like it was a little bit too much of a uh, uh, too much indulgence, I guess, into the genre, even though this was Batman and they were trying to lean heavily into the anime aspect. I thought it did it a little bit overboard for myself, though I feel like anyone who really is looking for that type of thing will probably eat it up and really enjoy it. I think just for my taste, I thought it was a little too much. And other than that, there was definitely some highlights within the actual movie that I thought were pretty cool and pretty um, things that I hadn't seen before in a Batman type thing. And there is definitely some of that in there as well. But overall, yeah, I just kind of thought it was okay for me. And so that was the first thing that started, and then after that, I believe there was like one of the first things that I really was kind of looking forward to seeing was the Warner Brothers panel. Because if they had said, I don't remember, but I can't recall them saying if there was specifically something that they were going to show during that panel. But what they ended up showing was they brought out the cast for Ready Player One, and they showed
Oh.
like an exclusive clip of the movie.
Oh,
And
that's
then
cool.
they talked about different stuff in terms of how it was working with Steven Spielberg and how it was to actually shoot something of this caliber and scope. And it was pretty cool. It was good seeing the cast and being able to hear them interact with each other, and looked like they had a lot of fun, or at least it sounded like it in terms of the filming it and doing the different things and being able to work with Steven Spielberg. So it just got me and the crowd anticipating the movie even more than we probably already were. So, and it's coming out soon. So obviously
Yeah.
we're right there on the
Yeah, like Wednesday.
precipice of being able to see it. Yeah. So looking forward to that. And then after that, there was a presentation for Lost in Space. They showed the first episode
Mm.
for that, and this man, as much as the trailer for it looked pretty good, the actual episode itself, that first episode, was really really good. There was
Oh.
some things about it that I didn't. It, I guess so. The structure of the first episode, you see them crashing onto the planet, and then it's intercut with what happened in the past, and it cuts throughout the first episode back and forth. And there was points in time where I was kind of like, oh, man, the tension that's going on in the present would be undercut by them flashing back. And I was like, oh, come on. I don't know why they keep having to cut back, because what they were cutting back to wasn't as interesting as what was going on in their present situation. But it all pays off, the past stuff and the present stuff. And I thought they did such a really good job of taking what was known in the 60s. You had this family dynamic that was very much 60s in terms of everybody having that, that sort of wholesome, very much saccharine type of family back then. Whereas in this present day updating of it, it's not so harmonious between the family members. There's a little bit more of, uh, I guess, somewhat of a conflicting turmoil between the family unit. It's not as cohesive as that original series, and you get to kind of understand why. And it plays on a lot of different tropes and other things, and to where once the episode ends, you really wish you were at home so that you could just start watching the rest of the episodes, because I thought the way it ended was really one of those things where you're just like, okay, let me get to the next episode as fast as possible because of the way it ended. So it absolutely looked really, really good in terms of the budget and the filming and the special effects. All great stuff. So I think if people watch it, Netflix will probably have a good hit on their hands with that.
When does that drop on Netflix?
I believe it was April 16th.
It's April 13th.
Okay.
13th? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And after that, they had a panel for Fear the Walking Dead. They had changed some showrunners, and so they also added some new members to the cast. And from what I could see from the trailer that they showed at Comic-Con, it looks like this season might be better, because in past seasons, anytime I've watched Fear the Walking Dead, I've kind of always just sort of dragged my feet with it. I watch it, but I've never felt like I've been fully invested in it. And this season, with the new cast members and the new showrunners, it looks like they've shaken things up enough to where it might be a bit of a better show than it was in the past. And I think if it plays out right, it might in this season surpass, for me, the regular Walking Dead series, because the regular Walking Dead series has sort of been waning for me a little bit within the last season or so. So
it's not just you.
Yeah, definitely. What's that, Michelle?
That's not just you. It's waning for everybody.
Well, true, exactly. So I am looking forward to this new season, just because it does look like it's going to be something better than what we've gotten in the past. And then after that, there was the last panel pretty much of the day was an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel, and they brought out the cast. Everyone was there except for Clark Gregg, who was actually in Washington, D.C. for the march. And they just showed some clips of some of the past seasons, building up to the fact that they just had their 100th episode. And also within this season, they don't know if it's going to be their last season. So they're in one sense, they were kind of thanking everybody for supporting all the shows throughout the seasons leading up to today and everything. And so they were all kind of just sharing different stories and stuff like that, because they don't know if they're going to get picked up for another season or not. But they kind of just played it in the sense of like, hey, let's just sort of celebrate what we've been able to accomplish up until this point.
Right.
And that was pretty much it for my Saturday. And then Sunday, I didn't do much other than walk the floor a little bit like I would normally do on a Sunday if I'm in San Diego. And then I saw one panel, which was for Black Lightning, and they showed next week's episode today. And so that was pretty good. It was actually a really good episode for next week that's coming up. And they brought out the writers for the show and the showrunner, and just did the Q&A session, which was actually pretty interesting. But that was pretty much it for my Comic-Con WonderCon experience for this year.
Very nice. Yeah, I don't know. I always think like maybe one of these years I'll change up and do WonderCon instead of Comic-Con. Like, but I don't know. That's kind of tough.
It's
to
definitely
make that
less
change.
crowded. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby, after like hearing that,
It's
I
not
was like, I'm kind of
hilarious. It's
bummed
a
that I didn't get.
possibility. What?
I was kind of surprised that I wasn't. I was bummed that I forgot about that. WonderCon was this weekend, and hearing about how they stepped it up a little bit, and it seems like it's gotten to be a lot more like Comic Con and that much more exciting. I'm really, I'm happy to hear that because I had a blast the last year when we went. So I'm just a little bummed that I didn't get a chance to do it this year.
Yeah, it was a good year, honestly, in terms of what they were presenting, because they seem to get a little bit stronger and stronger each year in terms of the TV side of stuff. And this year was the first time I can remember them having that much of a presence on the movie side in terms of having the Warner Brothers present for Ready Player One and have the entire cast there. I mean, that's pretty good step in towards that direction in terms of being able to start maybe having even more movie presence there as well.
Did Warner
Well,
Brothers?
hopefully it's not just because they, WonderCon, Ready Player One is about to come out and what
Mhm.
this week. So, I mean,
Next,
yeah,
yeah.
probably really good that they actually did have Ready Player One cast there and get people that much more excited. Anybody that's there is like, yeah, tell your friends, man, the movie comes out on Friday or whatever and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What was that, Michelle?
Did Warner Brothers bring anything from the DC universe?
No, and I think people were kind of maybe thinking that Aquaman could have been shown there, something
Right.
from there. But then James Wan did tweet out, he was like, hey guys, I just want to let you know it was never the plan for us to have something shown for Aquaman at WonderCon. It's like he was saying he's busy at work with it and it was his decision. It wasn't like it was on the table, but he just didn't feel like he has anything that's of quality to show yet because he's still working on effects and stuff like that. So he was really pretty much forthcoming in terms of saying, look, I think once you guys see something, you're going to be really excited for it, but now's not that time.
Right.
Well, hopefully they'll have something come July for
Oh,
for
I'm
San
sure.
Diego.
I'm
I'm sure
sure.
they will. Yeah.
That'd
They
be-
have to. I mean,
that'll be
doesn't the movie
awesome.
come out next fall?
Yeah, no, it comes out
Uh,
in November.
Yeah, November.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where this is happening. Well, that's cool. I mean, I have to say, like, on my Instagram, like, all the random, like, geeky vendors that I follow, a lot of them were at WonderCon this year. And a lot of them were saying, like, it's their first year even being at WonderCon. So it's obviously kind of catching on. They're really pushing it a lot more than I think they used to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Michelle, I met one of the people that you actually had met at San Diego Comic-Con.
That's right.
The Paradox Nerd.
Yes.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
there, and he was really cool actually getting to talk to him, and he really loves the show. So it was kind of cool. It's very weird when you're in the bubble and it's just us talking, and to talk
Right.
to someone outside of that who actually listens to the show. And he's like, yeah, because he lives in New Jersey. He's like, you know, when he drives to work, he's listening to the podcast and stuff. And so I was like, man, that's really cool because we just talk amongst ourselves. So we don't get that
Right,
feedback
right.
from anyone outside the bubble. And to hear other people who really interested and like it, it's always good to know.
No, it's just so funny because I met him 2 Comic Cons ago, actually at the San Diego airport bar, because we're just waiting to go on our flights. And I met him there, and we just started chatting. He's a really nice guy, and yeah, like it's cool that like 2 years later, like you randomly run into him at WonderCon, like.
I
You know
did
what I
seek him
mean?
out, actually.
Oh, did you?
'cause-
Okay, I was gonna say
yeah,
like it's kind of
because-
cool that that happened, but at the same
Yeah, the
time,
booth.
like that's how neat this like nerd universe is. Like it's big,
Yeah.
but it's small. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's fun.
Right.
I like it. It's cool. We're all just
It
big
is very
friends.
much
We're
so.
just big nerdy friends together.
Yeah, I mean, for as big as WonderCon has gotten, I think it still kind of surprises me that it's only a 3-day con. I think
Mhm.
Right.
so
instead
many
of having
cons now are
Thursday.
at least 4 days.
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, it's only Friday through Sunday. That's funny to me. I'm surprised it hasn't
What's-
moved into that Thursday slot.
What's a MegaCon for us here?
I think it's 4 days here now, or at
Is
least it's
it?
like 3.5. It
Like
used
Sunday's
to be
a half
It used
day?
to be like a 2.5-day con here in Orlando, but yeah, I think once it got bought by that company who bought it a couple years back, it moved to like 4 days.
That's what
Memorial Day weekend, yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anywho.
Cool. Well, thanks, Bobby, for filling us in on WonderCon this year. With that, let's move into box office for this weekend. We're going to cover the top 5, and at number 5 this weekend was Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider was in its second week. Last weekend, it opened to 23.6 million, opening at number 2 behind Black Panther. But this week, it fell about 56% to the number 5 slot, pulling in 10.4 million this weekend. Bobby, you have seen Tomb Raider. I think you're the only one of us who has had a chance to see it.
Go, Laura, go.
What'd you think of it?
Yeah, Tomb Raider, starring Alicia Vikander and Dominic West and Walter Goggins. And obviously, if you've seen the video game or played the video game or familiar with Angelina Jolie, you know who the character is. And this is just an updated version based off, I think, the newer video games that have come out. And I don't think I went into it with any kind of anticipation level. For one, it's a video game movie, and so those haven't been able to do really well in the past. So already you're kind of going in with hesitation in terms of what you're going to think of this type of movie. But I didn't go in with a negative attitude. I just kind of went in with an attitude of like, okay, let's see what you got. And I have to say, it actually was pretty decent. I thought it was a solid effort in terms of a video game movie. It's one where I could see myself watching it again and being able to still have the same opinion. I don't think it would go down. I don't think it would necessarily go up per se. But I thought what really worked about this was heart and soul. Absolutely, definitely, Alicia Vikander is really good as Lara Croft. I think she brought more of a humanity and more of a realized version of the character, more so than Angelina Jolie did. Angelina Jolie's character was already more established as the character, and so she almost seemed, in a sense, like a superhero because she's already really good at what she's doing. Whereas with Alicia's character or version of Lara, she's just starting out, just getting to know herself and be this Tomb Raider, and being able to rely on the skills in her mindset in terms of being able to solve puzzles. And the whole idea is that she is on a quest to find her father's legacy in terms of what he's left behind, because in the trailer that it shows that her father had been on some sort of expedition and had gone missing or died. And so she finds something in his will that leads her on this quest. And it's really getting to show this character from ground zero. And I think if they can maybe muster out enough for a sequel, I really think the sequel will elevate and go beyond what this first movie did, because I thought the first movie was good for a first movie, laying the foundation for more. And I was happy, at least from that standpoint, because I mean, I for one, I like Alicia Vikander, and also beyond that, it was cool for them to take that attempt in terms of this being a female character and being able to maybe have this based off this video game series and be able to maybe start this franchise. And I think it was a good first step. And so obviously there's things that you look at it and you're like, okay, I would have did this different or whatever. They should have did this and done that. But on the beyond just the surface level stuff, or just beyond some of the other little things that you might be able to look at and think maybe they could have done differently, I think beyond all that, it was just a good, solid film.
I was just gonna say that's really good to hear, because I feel like, so I'm a kind of a Lara Croft Tomb Raider nerd. I love playing the Lara Croft. I love playing Tomb Raider games. Like, it's kind of one of my things. And so when the first films came out with Angelina Jolie, yeah, it's like you're saying, like, they basically started the movie up where she was already pretty like in control of her abilities, like physically and mentally, and like she was already kind of on a certain pathway at that point. It was kind of like getting jumped in the middle of her story of figuring out who she is. So, and then I think they kind of hyper actionized her almost in a way in those films. Whereas to hear what you're saying, like with this one, you're really getting her very fresh off of everything, and she's really just learning as she goes, which is really how playing the video game is a lot of the time. Like, I feel like a lot of the video games, most of them will start with her fresh. And then they'll give like 2 or 3 games that are kind of in sequence in a way, and then they kind of almost like reboot it again, and then they do it in a different stylization with a different story, like a twinge on the storyline a little bit, and then she's relearning things again. So you're constantly getting it rebooted in the video gaming world with her. So it's kind of nice to see that's kind of what they're doing here. And I think that's exciting that they can continue this on, hopefully, moving forward and get a few more films in. And yeah, I've been hearing really good things about what they've done with it. So I'm looking forward to it because I'm kind of sad I haven't seen it yet because I like Tomb Raider a lot. I love Lara Croft. It's one of my many favorite video games that I play.
I'm definitely hoping more people go out and see it because I don't think it's doing well here, and I think it might be doing a little bit better internationally, but overall,
great.
yeah. So hopefully it can do a little bit better here. But I mean, it's tough because it's already been out 2 weeks, and then next week it's got Ready Player One. So it seems like it might get a little bit buried underneath a lot of the other movies that have been coming out because like we've gotten consecutive movies each week, something that's kind of a potential big blockbuster type movie. So it may not do well and may finish up early here in the States, but hopefully if the international box office keeps propelling it, that they at least say, okay, it's worth going ahead and trying to do a sequel.
Yeah,
I mean, it's gonna
internationally right now it's at 211 million internationally.
Okay.
What were you going to say, Jascha?
No, I just was kind of echoing what Bobby said. Just like it's going to have to do something because it's getting crushed right now domestically. Like, by all accounts, domestically for what it's done so far in the box office, that's a failure as far as a movie goes when it comes to getting another sequel. Internationally, it's killing. Like, it's doing great.
I mean, and yeah, it's like how I was saying, like today, right now at this moment, it's Sunday, and Ready Player One comes out on Wednesday. Like, it's gonna be rough, kids. Like, and I'm saying that, and I'm assuming Ready Player One's gonna take off, and I'm saying that, and I'll be honest, there's a part of me that's kind of hesitant because I feel like I've seen promotion for it, but I feel like I haven't seen as much promotion for this film as I thought I was gonna see. Like, I'm almost kind of starting to freak out a little bit. Like, oh god.
Well, yeah, that the Ready Player One, that's a whole other story.
I know it's a whole other thing, but anywho, yeah. I mean, with next week, I don't see Lara Croft continuing to hold on.
Right.
No. I really hope people catch it. Yeah, one way or another, because I think it's worth seeing and not passing on at all. Even if you catch it before it goes out of theaters towards the tail end, I think it's still worth seeing in the theaters. I don't think this is one you have to just sit back and wait for it to come on Blu-ray. I think it's worth seeing in the theater.
Cool. At number 4 this weekend was a new release, Sherlock Gnomes from Paramount Animation. This was the sequel. This is a sequel to 2011's Romeo and Juliet.
Dude.
Are you a fan, Michelle?
Hell no.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I'm starting to build up hype. Like, somebody's gonna love it, right?
So Sherlock Gnomes opened at about 10.6 million to put it at number 4. At number, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I have no desire to see that movie.
Oh,
no.
Wow.
No.
What?
Can we end the podcast on that? Just that's enough.
Have any of you guys seen Romeo and Juliet?
Nope.
And I have seen a lot of movies with my kids that I would never normally see, and I have not seen Romeo and Juliet.
I don't know how, but I've apparently seen 30 minutes of this film somewhere in the shuffle of whatever life.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
And you know what? It was
can't get you to see Pacific Rim.
It was just as bad as you can even imagine. I remember just sitting going, wow, this is not good.
Well, I walked out of seeing Pacific Rim Uprising with my son this weekend, and there's a big poster for Sherlock Gnomes. Of course, he points at it and is like, "Dad, can we go see that movie?" And I'm like, "Yeah, son, sure we can. Yeah. We're gonna go home now."
That's what grandparents are for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or what you could do, or David, what you could do is just be like, yeah, you know what, son? It actually came out on TV already. It's on Netflix, and just show him the first one because he probably won't know the difference.
Well, you know what's funny is so I was watching him one afternoon for like an hour before because David needed me to watch him. So I'm watching him, and I hadn't watched The Wreck-It Ralph, and this was That was weeks ago then, I guess.
Yeah.
So anyways, so the Wreck-It Ralph trailer, the little teaser came out, right? And I hadn't watched it yet, and I was like, "Hey, buddy, let's watch this real quick. Just watch."
For the new film, the sequel.
Right, for the sequel,
okay.
for Wreck-It Ralph 2, Breaks the Internet. So I'm like, yeah, let's watch this. And we watch it. And he was like, we need to watch this right now. And I'm like,
Nobody.
Oh, dude,
Doesn't
I'm
work that way.
so sorry. That's not happening for a few more months. And
You just look at him and say, welcome to every Marvel trailer that I watched every time.
I need to see this right now.
This is my world, kid. Welcome to my world.
Like, I felt so bad. I was probably like, oh, I should never have shown him this because it's so cool. And he likes Wreck-It Ralph. I know that. And so I'm like, which is why I was like, oh, we should watch this trailer. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I just walked into a minefield. Like, I was just like, I was like, oh, but it doesn't even come to movie theaters for like a few more months, let alone on your own TV at home. Like, I'm like, I am so sorry.
Sorry, buddy.
I broke his little heart. And
Way to
felt
break my kid's heart. Thanks.
horrible. I was like, Auntie,
Clearly, Michelle likes
Why
to
don't
torture
show him
your
trailers
children when
and
you're
stuff
not
that's not
around.
out for a long time,
I was
Michelle?
like, Auntie Michelle has just wrecked you, haven't I? I was like, oh God, I killed him. I was like, oh jeez, he was so sad. I felt so horrible.
All right.
But yeah, no, take him to Sherlock Gnomes. That's fine.
I'm not. Somebody might, but it ain't going to be me.
It's not gonna be Auntie Michelle. I'll tell you right now.
No. I'll take him to see Black Panther next, probably before I take him to see Sherlock Gnomes. Anyway, moving on to number 3 in the box office this weekend, I Can Only Imagine. This is from Roadside Attractions. It's a faith-based film based on the story behind Mercy Me song of the same name, which I've never heard of.
That song came out in like the 90s, dude.
Yeah, you know more than me. I never heard of it.
Dude, that song has been around forever.
I guess it's the most played Christian radio single ever.
Have you really never heard the song? I mean, I'm not even like a whole like.
I mean, I'm saying that I haven't looked up the song and heard it, and maybe if I heard it, I'd be like, oh, okay, that one.
Imagine
maybe I've heard
what my life would be. I don't even know the words.
No,
Really?
it's not ringing any bells.
Okay. I don't even know the words, but I know that much.
But this is its second week in theaters, and I believe it's at number 3. I think it was at number 3 last weekend.
Yeah.
It's doing pretty well for itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those movies, they kind of come out of nowhere and do really well. Not all of them, but there's always the ones that seems like that one year, or one for the year, that will come out at some random point in time throughout the year, and it'll just have that huge box office off of what, like a $5 million budget or something, and it'll end up doing like 60, 70 million at the box office. So that's definitely one of those genres that I think is underserved in terms of making movies for that audience that would really appreciate seeing them more in the theater and would go out to go see them.
Well, and I think it's really caught on with a lot of religious organizations when they have more religious text film, they'll buy out theaters. And it'll be like, 2 Sundays from now, come to church, and then that afternoon, after y'all do brunch, we're all gonna meet the theater for the 1:30 showing. We bought out the theater, just come, whatever. And that's what they do. Like a church will buy out a viewing of these movies. Yeah. But I mean, and it's funny because I feel like churches have been doing that for years with a lot of their more religiously context films, and it's happening more and more now for mainstream films. Like, look at Black Panther. People were buying it out for kids in elementary school and middle schools. And then right now, the new thing this week is people buying out theaters for Love, Simon. And that's a huge thing that's going on. Like, Kristen Bell bought it out. Neil Patrick Harris bought out at a theater showing. And so, like, it's happening so people can get the word out. So I think that's kind of one of the things that's helped at least this film do fairly decently, is because it's not just people going in masses, but it's also just people like churches and organizations purchasing out large theaters, and they'll buy out the whole theater and then fill it up with their congregation.
Right.
So, which is good. I mean, do your thing.
At number 2 this weekend, Black Panther has finally dropped out of the number 1 spot. It is at number 2 this weekend.
It's insane.
Pulling in around 16.7 million. So it's just because it's at number 2, it's certainly not dropping off all that much. In fact, I think it was just yesterday, it has now officially become domestically the highest grossing superhero film ever.
It beat
Craziness.
Avengers.
It is
It's
now
just crazy.
past Avengers.
Oh my god.
Avengers was at 623 million. Black Panther now sits at 630.
Oh my gosh. It's shocking, like, looking at it on the screen.
It's nuts. It really is.
Oh,
No one,
man.
absolutely no one would have ever told you back a year ago that Black Panther would be the highest grossing superhero movie of all time. It's insane. I mean, especially when you think about the fact that that opening weekend, they were like, oh yeah, it'll probably make about 70 million, 75 million.
Right.
And it ends up even blowing past that just in the opening weekend. And then here we are. I mean, if I'm telling you right now, if this movie is getting an extended stay in the theaters and it's still out by the time Infinity War comes out, I'm definitely doing a double feature of those two movies.
Well, you could do that AMC watch every.
I was
MCU
going to
film
say,
marathon.
you were telling me about that
Oh,
marathon.
I can't hang with
That's-
that one.
I
I'm
don't
That's
know,
like
yeah,
2
and I-
days. You're like sleeping there, man.
It's like I looked it
Yeah.
up. It's like an $80 ticket, but you get to see what is it, like 31 hours of film.
Yeah.
That is a
You know what?
long time.
It's a
You know
long
what's-
marathon.
It's a long marathon, but I'll be honest. You know what I would pay? I would totally pay to watch in the theater again. Is the Avengers? Is that first Avengers? I would totally pay to see that in the theater again. That was such a spectacular film in the theater.
Mhm.
I would
Oh, yeah.
love to see it in the big screen again. Like, no questions asked.
Yeah.
So Black
I
Panther.
would definitely pick and choose which movies I saw. Like if you can get something like a wristband or something to leave the theater and then come back.
Oh, for that
I would
marathon.
I think
probably
you
see
have
certain
to,
movies.
just so you can go
Ugh.
eat food. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure
you
the
don't
theater
wanna
wants
fill
you to
up on
eat the
theater.
pizza and the pretzels that they have
Right.
there, but geez, at some point you have to have actual like nourishment.
That'd be the funny thing. Yeah, I guess if you were doing that marathon, you probably would sit there and look at the list and go, okay, which one of these or which two of these could I miss?
To sleep.
And then a lot of people would probably be like, well, man, I would totally skip Hulk or Incredible Hulk,
Mm.
except it's like the second film. So you're
Yeah.
already jumping out way too early. You got to find something in the middle.
I was gonna say I would actually sit through that in the theater again. As crazy as that sounds.
No, and I would too. I think a lot of people,
Right.
if that were in the middle, that'd be the movie they'd pick. They'd be like, okay, well,
I'm
I
telling you
can
right
skip
now,
Hulk.
I'd call it pretty easy. Iron Man 3,
Yeah.
even
no
Iron
doubt.
Man 2. Honestly, I'd be like, I'm cool.
Right.
Like, and I
Mm.
say that being, I love the first Iron Man. I think it holds its own for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, I mean,
And I'm saying that, but yeah, the second, the third one, I'd be like, maybe I go out and get
I'm
a
with you on
nicer
that.
nicer meal this
Mhm.
movie.
meanwhile, I'd be the guy sitting through Dark World, and everyone else would be like, "Oh, I gotta go."
I
Can't watch
would
Dark World.
I
Yeah.
would be right with you on Dark World though. I like Dark World.
Yeah.
I
I'd
like
probably
I've
be out.
seen it once, and I'd like to watch it again. Actually,
Dude, Dark World holds up. I feel like I've seen it on FX every now and then, the FX channel.
Yeah.
Randomly.
Randomly.
So Black Panther this weekend was weekend number 6.
Yeah.
Yes, weekend number 6.
And it finally just dropped.
Finally, just dropped to number 2.
It held on for longer than a month.
Held on. It held off Tomb Raider last weekend,
Dang.
Yep.
but it finally got knocked out of the number 1 spots by Pacific Rim Uprising. Number 1 film this weekend, new release, pulling in 28 million domestically. Let's talk about Pacific Rim Uprising, shall we? This is the.
All right, I'm gonna go take a break.
This
I'll
is going
come
to be when you
back.
take your break during the podcast.
I'm just gonna take a break. Come back to you three.
Sorry, no re-entry. By the way, you leave, you can't come back.
Just stop the show.
No
hey,
wristbands.
if
No
you had to
wrist.
sit through an hour and 40 minutes of it, you can sit through just a little bit of a conversation.
No wristband in this
I want to
house.
say there's one guy on here that hated the first film, but you know what? He went and saw this movie because he wanted to talk about it here on this podcast.
I commend that
Goddamn
gentleman.
right.
I commend that gentleman. I really do.
And that person,
I haven't not even seen the first one. Could care less about seeing the second one. So
that person is Mr. Jascha Wilson. You famously on this podcast have talked about how much you disliked Pacific Rim. The sequel is out. You have seen it. Sounds like you saw it today, right?
I did. I saw it this afternoon. I dragged my very supportive girlfriend to go see it.
Yes.
I was like, do you want to go see this movie? And she's like, well, what's it about? And I was like, well,
God, I hope
And
I hope she's getting a good dinner later this week.
I was like, it's kind of about monsters, and then there's robots, and she's just looking at me like, how fucking old are you right now? And I'm just like, no, it's gonna be fine. It's you know, it's something that I want to go see because I talked about the first one, and I know Bobby's gonna see it because I think Bobby liked the first one. So I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna basically go to talk about it. And she's like, okay, so we can go see this movie. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I swear to God, within 5 minutes of the movie starting, I damn near wanted to stand up and walk out. Just watching the recap that they did, talking about the Jaegers and the Kaju and how they came from an alternate dimension, I literally was like, oh my God, that's right. I have blocked out that painful memory. I want to fucking leave. And I just like, you know what? I'm going to power through this. I'm going to power through it. And the overacting was just spectacular. The special effects were okay. And here's the thing. I am a fan of John Boyega's. I think he's fantastic. He's really good. I don't have a problem with Scott Eastwood. Some of the other characters that I see, I like Charlie Day. But watching this movie, and it wasn't bad per se, but it like the first one I thought was really, really corny and campy and just kind of stupid. For whatever reason, I get walked out of this one. I was like, all right, that wasn't so bad, but it was still very, very cheesy. It was very campy. My girlfriend was very like, oh, that was okay. You know, she powered through, like I said, like a champion when it came to that. And then just kind of looked at the watch and thought, oh my God, is it really already this time? We've spent over 2 hours in that movie. And I'm like, yeah, something like that. And so it was very cheesy. You know, this is a great movie, a really easy watch. And you know what? I probably would put it on if I needed something to fall asleep to at home and I wanted to put on something that I didn't need to pay attention to.
It's project background noise is what it is.
Oh, it's fantastic background noise.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That's the I'm cleaning the house and something needs to be on kind of thing.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You know, where it's easy to walk in and you're just like, okay, this is what this is. And then just as easy, you can walk out for 30 minutes and come back and you haven't missed a damn thing, like in my opinion.
So are you taking her to like a really nice steakhouse later this week, or?
I took her out to dinner last week, and
okay.
we'll probably I'll probably owe her another dinner after this, so I definitely need to take her to dinner again.
A food truck rally at least, something fun.
Just something to be a little, thank you, sweetheart. That was really kind of nice of you to power through that with me. But you know, I just you know, I think it's the monster thing, the monster and the giant robots. It's just like, for me, whatever reason, I just found it very kind of cheesy, very kind of campy. I had questions walking out of the movie theater where I was like, wait, what was this about? And I found her trying to explain it to me, which is never the case because I'm usually really good. It was very, very predictable in the sense of how it was moving forward and the introduction of characters. But it was, yeah, I guess I'm looking at IMDb right now, and they gave it a 6 out of 10, and that's probably where I would rate it. I'd probably rate it like maybe a 5 out of 10, not so much a 6.
All right. Well, Jascha, I appreciate that you went and saw this film. Thank you. I appreciate that you wanted to just give it a chance and go see it. Thank you, buddy.
Wow.
I wanted to give, you know, my honest opinion. I talked so bad about the first one. I was like, okay, I need to go and at least see this one and see what this is all about and kind of give it a shot. And, you know, I wanted to be able to give my review on the podcast. So
I like how David simultaneously gave you props and made Michelle feel bad.
I don't know what you're talking about. I would never do that.
Uplifting one and undercutting the other. Aaron.
That's good.
All right.
I'm just gonna mute my mic and I'm gonna sit back and drink my cocktail.
Oh, come on.
Cool.
Oh, Michelle.
So, Bobby, you also saw Pacific Rim Uprising. Like me, I believe you were a fan of the first film.
Absolutely.
What did you think of the sequel?
So, yeah, definitely a fan of the first one with Guillermo del Toro, and you can absolutely tell the difference between Guillermo's film and this film. They share the same substance, they share the same DNA, but Stephen DeKnight, who directed this one, Stephen S. DeKnight, comes from directing and show running the first season of Daredevil. He also did the show Spartacus, and I felt like where there were certain amounts of things that Guillermo did in terms of he seemed to give more weight and I don't know what to call it exactly, but there was more of a realistic feel to the Jaegers in his film, and yet in his film, I felt like the characters were very weightless and paper thin to a certain degree, and in Stephen S. The Knight's film, I feel like the human characters had more weight to them. I absolutely enjoyed the human characters and the people in this film more so than I did in the first Pacific Rim, especially John Boyega. I really like John Boyega in this because he was different than any of the other characters I've seen him play in the past, and it was nice to see him play in this kind of a character. And I think with the difference between the Jaegers in the first movie and this one, these movies feel more like transformer type robots. And I gotta say, I mean, I didn't mind the difference. It was, they definitely feel different in terms of that tone, but ultimately at the end of the day, all I care about is seeing monsters fight robots, giant robots, and it delivers on that in an aspect that I was really eating up, especially towards the end of the film. It was like getting to see that kind of action. And I don't know. I mean, I think whereas with the first film there was a lot of night shots where the robots and the monsters were fighting. In this one it's pretty daylight, and obviously it's obviously it's CG, and sometimes it looks good, sometimes it looks bad, but overall I excused a lot of the way it looked and just went into it just wanting to see the fighting and see how the different swords and rockets and everything else happen, and just the fighting, just seeing that go down. And it delivered on it for me. I really enjoyed it because I think that's what I went in looking for, and that's what I got. I just saw robots fighting monsters, but I actually think I felt like I got a little bit more out of it than I was expecting because I really did like John Boyega's character and would like to see him again. And I also liked the young actress. I'm not sure what her name is, but who was in this movie as well. I liked her character and would like to see uh, what they would do in a sequel with them as well. So I don't know. I came out of it really enjoying it, but I obviously can see where most people wouldn't because of the nature of it and how kind of it really is sort of a popcorn movie where I think to a certain degree you could have fun in that 2 hours and then easily forget it after you left. But I really did enjoy it just for that aspect. And I will definitely agree with what Yasha said in terms of it being a movie that you can put on in the background. But for me, I don't do that. I really don't typically put movies on in the background. I'm always watching something I haven't seen. But this would be one of the very rare movies that I would actually like to have on in the background if I was doing something else, and to be able to look up at certain scenes and then see some of the fighting and stuff like that, because I did really enjoy that aspect of the movie. So for me, a movie to put on in the background is more of a like a badge of honor, because I don't do that with very many movies. There's very few movies I would ever just have on in the background, and this one would be one that I would actually do that for. So I definitely really felt like I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, yeah, I saw the film as well. I was a fan of the first movie. Um, I went into this one with really low expectations. As much as I enjoyed the first film, the trailers for this just did not catch me at all. Yes, Michelle's pointing at the poster on the wall. Yes, there's a Pacific Rim print right behind us. Um, Yeah, I went in with pretty low expectations. I had also went in kind of hearing some of the reaction online, a lot of the Twitter reaction to screenings of the film, which was that it seemed universally to be that most people were like, the first half is really boring, but then the second half is just full of action and is actually pretty entertaining. So that's kind of how I took most of the reactions I was seeing. And then I saw it, and I get what people were saying in that regard, but at the same time, I found myself enjoying the first half, I think, more than I expected, maybe because I was expecting it to be even worse than it was. And then same with the overall film. Overall, I really enjoyed the film. I mean, like you said, Bobby, it definitely feels very different from the first film. It does not have the style that Guillermo del Toro brought to that first film at all. But at the same time, it goes to kind of outlandish places, and it works for this film. There's a point like halfway through the film where there's a certain scene, and I'm just like, oh wow, okay. And then from then on, yeah, it just kind of owns that kind of craziness, if you will, without talking about spoilers. And I thought it was entertaining overall. So I'm kind of echoing, I think, what you guys said. It's a good film, or at least what you said, Bobby, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed a lot of the performances. I definitely enjoyed John Boyega. I can't, after having seen this film, I can't imagine anybody else playing that role. If somebody else had, I imagine this movie would be nowhere near as good. He was a huge highlight of this movie for me. On the flip side, I thought Scott Eastwood was quite terrible.
Yeah. He was not great.
No, I'm trying to think of if I have even seen Scott Eastwood in anything. I don't know.
He was in Suicide Squad.
Oh, that's right.
He's very forgettable in Suicide Squad.
I will agree. I feel like he's just been in very tiny roles in a few major movies, and that's what's been happening.
Yeah, like I'm trying to quickly look at his rundown here, and nothing is like jumping out at me that I was like, oh yeah, him and that. But
it's been very, I mean, I think it was like really, I know it was really small in Suicide Squad, but I think he was also in one of the Fast and Furious recently.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Like they're very tiny roles. Yeah.
But I mean, this will then be my first kind of a bigger experience, I guess, with Scott Eastwood, and it was not good. Not at all. Yeah. He was not good in this movie. But yeah, I agree with you. I think her name is Kaylee, and I think it's pronounced Spani. That's her last name. The young actress in this film, she was quite good. We've got some returning cast members like Bern Gorman and Charlie Day. They were just as interesting, I guess, as you could say, as they were in the first film. But overall, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. It's a very different film. I think anyone going to see this, it's, this is the kind of movie you're going to see if seeing robots and big monsters is your thing. I don't think it's going to disappoint you.
No.
I would certainly see this film before I'd see probably any Transformers movie. So I don't even think that's a contest. But overall, I liked it. I was surprised. I would be happy to see a third film, kind of where this seems like it is leading. Will we see a third film? Who knows? It would all depend on international box office. But
because it's getting crushed in the fucking movie theaters here.
I was gonna say, I think it's solely on international film at this international box office at this point.
And the first film was. I mean, the first film did not do well domestically, but this kind of film brings in the international box office, and that's why we got a sequel. And
I mean, the Far East. This is like their wheelhouse right here.
Mm-hmm.
Look, all I know is that after I saw this movie, it made me not only like seeing this series and want to see it continue, but it gave me a huge amount of boost in terms of feeling like now is the time that we should be able to see a fully realized Voltron movie, a fully realized Robotech movie, a fully realized Gundam movie. To me, it seems like the technology is absolutely there for them to be able to pull it off and make it look good.
And here's where David's going to want to smack me around.
Yeah, because she's going to go, I can't wait to see those films.
If you pull out a Voltron film, I'm going to lose my effing mind. I will be so freaking happy. Oh,
I mean,
Oh,
of
so
course, I'm
happy.
with you. I grew up on Voltron, so yeah. I mean, I'd kill to see Voltron.
My heart skips a beat at the thought of a Voltron film.
And yeah, if there's any other, I mean, sure, I could probably think of a bunch of complaints I have about this movie, and one of them would
Sure.
be is as fine as I am with like the special effects in it. Sure, I think you could make these robots look even more realistic than they do.
Mhm.
They definitely have a a more animated quality to them that they don't need to have. I mean, we've seen special effects in movies that we could make a film, like you're saying, we could make a good Voltron film and be like, oh wow, that looks like a real robot. these
Right.
robots do not. That reminds me though, one thing I was going to say, as much as I did prefer the style of Guillermo del Toro in his first film compared to this, there was things about this film that I did like. I felt like this film did a better job of giving you the sense of how big these things are,
Yeah.
more so than the first film did. And it was touches like the sound design. There's times where you hear these Jaegers speaking, of course, speaking via the person inside of it talking, but just the sound of what it would sound like something this large talking was kind of cool. And I felt like a lot more perspective from people on the ground at these things
Mhm.
walking around near them that really gave you a better feeling for like, oh wow, this would be crazy to have this kind of stuff going on around you as just a regular person on the ground. I don't think the first film did quite as good of a job as giving you that sense.
And I liked also that beginning sequence in the movie where with the actress, the young actress,
Mhm.
did you mention David, her character? There's a fun scene with her and a Jaeger that I thought was pretty cool way to sort of open it up in terms of introducing her character and what she's capable of doing. I thought it was pretty fun. And then there's also a time when the scene and the whole movie it moves to Japan, and I love the fact that with this isn't giving anything away, but once you see giant monsters and robots in Japan, you get like that classic shot of people running around wild in the streets with
Right,
monsters
right.
tearing up the city, and I was like, "Yep, that's a monster movie because it's not a monster movie if it's not tearing up Japan's in some way." So I like that aspect as well.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Pacific Rim Uprising. Yeah. By the way, the worldwide number at it right now is at 150 million. So moving on, guys, from the box office. But while we're talking about box office, we talked about how well Black Panther is doing and how it just passed Avengers. On the flip side of things, Justice League has now officially ended its domestic run. I think it officially ended that this past week. And so that now makes it official that it has made the least out of any DCEU film, pulling in a total of 229 million. I really like this tweet from Exhibitor Relations that I have to read out when they tweeted about it.
He's got the picture. It's a
Oh god, it's
clip.
fantastic.
Oh my God.
Because it's just so sad when you read this and think about it. Like they tweeted last week, Justice League tapped out domestically with 229 million, barely squeezing past Will Smith's drunk, homeless, and unknown superhero Hancock, which delivered 227 million back in 2008. Or you could say it made 291 million if adjusted for inflation. Like, that's crazy to think about.
Hilarious. You know
That's
what?
so sad.
It is sad.
You know
Yeah.
what's funny?
So sad.
I actually kind of sort of like that film from Will Smith.
I've actually never seen Hancock. I'll admit.
Here's the thing. There's a big like, oh, this just went downhill fast, all of a sudden moment. But up to that moment, you're like, this is solid.
Yeah, no, it's not a horrible movie. It's
It's not
cheesy. And
horrible.
funny. I definitely got some laughs from it. Like, I mean,
Right.
I was really hoping that they were going to do a sequel. I mean, there were talks about it
There
for a
was,
while.
yeah.
But then
it's it's just sad to hear that Justice League performed so
Oh.
poorly
It.
when it should have been so epic.
Do you know what that means? It actually did worse than Batman versus Superman.
Well, that's not. I wouldn't even go that far. I would say the depressing part of it is that it did worse than Suicide Squad. I mean,
Oh, that's right.
Suicide Squad, and you guys can tell me your opinion, but I think is 10 times worse than Justice League.
Oh my
Easily.
God, sweet Jesus, yes.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that it couldn't even make as much money as Suicide Squad, but I can see why. I mean, the marketing for Suicide Squad was excellent, in my opinion. I mean,
It was.
I went into
It
Suicide
was.
Squad thinking that this was just
It
a
was.
home run. There was no way this was going to be bad because the trailers were great. And
The trailers were good. The marketing was good. It was solid.
And on the flip side, the marketing for Justice League definitely left a lot to be desired. It just didn't bring people to the theater, and it shows right here. But yeah, Justice League.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I hate hearing that because I really did enjoy Justice League and thought this was the first time they were starting to get the characters to feel like they should and gel like they should. And I was hopeful that they'd come out of that and be able to be like, okay, we're on the right track. And then no, to do that bad. Now they still are going forward with some of the stuff they've already had set, but at the same time, it's like, well, will we get to see a Man of Steel 2? Will there be a Justice League 2 with this particular lineup of actors and characters? Who knows? But I definitely feel like it's one of those movies that, as much as people keep calling for having this Zack Snyder cut, it really is a shame that people didn't just appreciate the film for what it was and see that it was an improvement on, like you said, David, in terms of some of the other stuff that they had been putting out.
Right.
I just feel bad for David because he's Mr. like DC Batman guy.
So I love how I keep getting attached with this.
You do, and
this
I feel
persona.
bad. I know, but I'm just saying, like, okay, if you compared, I know that you hate this label, but seriously,
I do.
let's compare.
Please go on.
Let's compare
Go on and put it on me again.
DC Comics David has read versus Marvel Comics David has read.
I fully admit, when it comes to actual comic books, I know DC better.
Okay,
Yes.
that's all I'm saying. So yes, so I feel like when I say you're the DC guy, it's more like, one, you've read more DC, and two, I feel like your heart attaches more when it comes to like Batman and Superman.
Than the MCU stuff?
Yes.
I guess. I mean, yeah, it's a bummer, but like you said, I mean, that I really enjoyed Justice League. I mean,
No, you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed parts of it, and I felt like it was finally that glimmer of hope that if we could keep going with this,
right,
then
and to
we're
see
good.
that Suicide Squad is still beat it out is very depressing.
But it's like the latter half of Justice League is basically too little too late is what it seems like. Like, even though that's
exactly
the part of
what
the
it
film that it's like, oh my God, this is what we all want right now. Like, oh wait, too late. Sorry.
The thing is, you're saying it's too little too late, and I feel like, and I hate to be this way, but I feel like Wonder Woman helped a lot. The Wonder Woman film, not just Wonder Woman as a character, the Wonder Woman film helped a lot as far as the DCU goes.
Yeah, I mean,
in keeping it alive.
I mean, right now the DCEU isn't going anywhere, like Bobby just mentioned. Yeah, we got a Wonder Woman 2 film absolutely is coming.
Oh yeah,
Aquaman film is coming this year.
Right.
So we'll see what those films do, and you know, like Bobby also just mentioned, I am still crossing my fingers for Man of Steel 2. I still love Henry Cavill as Superman. Will it happen? I'm not getting my hopes up, but I really hope it does. And yeah, I enjoyed this version of the Flash, and I would love to see more of Ezra Miller's Flash. But you know, will that happen? We don't know that either.
Well, that actually sounds like that's going to happen.
I would say I don't believe anything they say until they get behind cameras at this point.
And I totally understand that.
I don't know how many times we've gone to Hall H and, okay, guys, this is the movies that are coming out. And
I know, but
here's this director. Okay, now we're 2 directors past that guy.
I know, but when it comes to The Flash, I feel like because he was one of the main characters that carried this film,
right.
That's actually that's going to happen. And especially because the Aquaman film's going. I mean, I have faith. I have faith in the DC.
You have more faith than me.
I have faith in the individual films. As far as anything like with them joining up, as far as the DC like joining up, say more Suicide Squad or more Justice League, I I have zero faith in that. But when it comes to the individual characters, I have faith. Anywho.
So yeah, that's the disappointing news from Justice League as it ends its box office run, and it's now out on Blu-ray if you're interested in seeing it. If you haven't seen it yet, with that,
real quick, man. Hey, real quick, I
yeah.
just wanted to interject just one thing real here. I'm looking at
Michelle, just down that drink. Jesus.
I'm looking at numbers, and what makes me sad is that I'm looking at where Justice League at 140 over the domestic, number 140 in the domestic gross where it comes in, and I'm just like, really, where was Hancock? And it's like, well, Hancock was 140, 144. X-Men Days of Future Past did better than Justice League.
Oh,
X-Men,
no shit. Oh.
X-Men The Last Stand did better than Justice League.
Well, to defend Last Stand, and I am not a big defender of Last Stand, to defend Last Stand, we were all excited to see where that story was going to go.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
At the time, we were all super stoked.
Right.
To see
I'm
the
right
Phoenix.
there with you. I'm right there with you. So I'm just like, I'm looking at some of the names that are circling right around this, and it's just how it's just below. I'm actually surprised to see some of these. I'm surprised to see Doctor Strange is just above it. Justice League was 140. Doctor Strange is 138. And just below that is the Lost World Jurassic Park in 97. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them came out in 130 as 134. Ooh. So I'm just like, I'm kind of surprised at just looking around at some of the numbers and some of the titles that it's around, and how I thought they did much better than what they were listed as. But at the same time, Justice League should be up there more towards the top 100, maybe even the top 20.
Right.
Because it should have been just epic.
It should have. I think we all are on the same page there for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, last weekend, or I should say a week ago Friday, we got a new Avengers Infinity War trailer. And at the same time, the tickets for the film went on sale. You would think we would all then gather around and let's talk about that trailer, except only one of us has watched it. What, Michelle? You were going to...
I'm just going to jump to my own defense here.
I'm with you. I haven't seen it either.
I was going to say, I think our defense is the same. Is that the reason I haven't watched it is because I don't need to see more of this. I don't. I'm going. My ticket is purchased. I will be there with bells on. I am excited. I need no more visual. Like, I need zero more visual. I just want to go and enjoy and experience and just see the cluster F that it's going to be. Like, I'm super excited. I don't need to see more. I have zero need to see more. None.
Yeah, I have not seen it either. Basically the same reason. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's so soon, and I'm like, I feel like I've been kind of skeptical of this film, and then maybe that's a good thing. So maybe I'll just go into it and be like, "Holy shit, this was amazing!"
Right.
Like, but if I see this trailer, then I'm gonna be like,
okay.
"Oh fuck, this trailer! Now this trailer is hyping me up." I almost don't want to be hyped up yet.
Right.
I'm like, I just want to go into this how I feel right now.
I think of the four of us, you're definitely the most skeptical of this film.
And I say that, and I can already
negatively, just
I think I feel the energy and the force is already getting to me. It's like, oh my god, it's coming. I can't help it, but now to feel the excitement, like from my fellow geekdom.
I feel like my expectations were kind of low, and then that end scene at the end of the trailers for Black Panther happened, and I went, God damn it, now I'm excited again. Like, I was like, no, I was so close to not being excited for this, and then like I saw that, and I was like, oh, damn you, Black Panther.
But Bobby, you also have not watched it. What's your reason? Same, basically.
Pretty much. I mean, usually these days, at most I'll watch a teaser and then a full trailer or two trailers, basically, and then I'm done. Because the more you start seeing, the more you start to rob yourself of seeing those scenes played out in context in the actual theater. And so at this point, you already know, like Michelle said, you're going to go see it and you're going to be anticipating and waiting for certain things to play out. So at this point, I don't need to see anything more in the marketing, just because I'm already anticipating seeing so much and wanting to go in as clean as possible in terms of knowing what I've already seen and just being prepared to see stuff that I will react to better in the theater as opposed to seeing it in the trailer.
Well, Yasha, you have watched the trailer, so I'm curious. How is it?
Well, first, I want to say, David, that when you walk out of the movie, I really would like you to jump on the podcast and say what you thought of it, just like you were just did with using that voice. I want you to be like,
Holy
holy crap,
shit.
that was amazing.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
If I enjoyed it that much, I will definitely use that voice as much as I can in that episode.
You're gonna use your monster rally truck thing.
Guys, you won't believe how good this movie is. I'm gonna do that.
Like
on the show.
He's like the old movie trailer dude. It's awesome.
That's awesome. But yes, I did watch it, and you will be pleasantly surprised to know that they really don't give you that much in the trailer. And honestly, it's a little bit of voiceover. You get to see the characters interact with each other just a little bit more. But in all honesty, like when you're done with it, you're just kind of like, all right, that really didn't give me anything. You know, you get to see a few more, like another action scene. You see Spider-Man a little bit more. Honestly, you don't get that much more from the trailer than you did from the first one. It's almost like they just recut it a little bit, put a few more, like maybe a little bit more scene in there, but that's really it. Like, I mean, there's a really cool voiceover with Gamora. She's talking about it looks like maybe it could be Tony Stark. That, you know, you don't know because you're not really sure in context because they cut it, you know, different ways.
Huh.
And then, you know, Tony asked, you know, what was this guy's name again? You know, referring to Thanos. And honestly, you don't get much from the trailer. All you do get, if anything, is just like, okay, well, I'm already in. And I was already in, and I just broke down. I just was like, I want to watch this. I want to see see if they give us anything else for whatever reason. Because I do pretty good sometimes too when it comes to that sort of thing. I'm like, you know, and I don't need to see any more trailers. I'm already in. Especially when they get like the last week or two, if I'm happen to be on watching a lot of TV and, you know, it's just like trailer after trailer after trailer. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to see anymore.
Right.
I'm all in already.
I think what's surprising, the takeaway is what you just said, is that Gamora had kind of the overtone, because I feel like there was like a nod kind of for funsy poster that was created just this week, and it was Thanos' hand and Gamora's hand, and it was a nod to
Logan.
To Logan, and it was so it was this whole, like, you know, like I'm using air quotes here, father-daughter kind of bond situation. And so I'm wondering, like, is this really going to get down to, like, Thanos and Gamora at some point? Like, is this where Gamora is going to have to make a major choice in her life? And I say that knowing that, for the most part, she completely condones everything Thanos has done. But, like, is there going to be this, like, moment of, like, well, what the hell do I do?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They do have a scene here or there that kind of alludes to maybe something to that effect. But
and I'm saying that because I feel like I haven't seen anything as far as Gamora really goes, other than in some promo stuff. I feel like as far as visually, like officially, like footage wise, I haven't seen a lot of Gamora on the trailers. So I don't know. It kind of, and this is why I don't want to see more, because I start speculating this shit in my head, and I start getting all excited. And I'm like, so are we going to get a lot more Gamora, like backstory and more moving forward with her? Like, I don't know. And it's a character that I really enjoy. So
right.
It's pretty cool.
I start moving these things the gears in my head start moving, and I'm like, it's interesting that was the little, like, nod that they decided to do this week, was the Thanos Gamora, like, Logan thing. I don't know. Anyways.
So the trailer is now the third biggest, in terms of how much the trailer has been watched, I guess, in the first 24 hours. I believe the biggest release for a trailer in its first 24 hours was the first Infinity War trailer.
Yeah.
The number 2 spot is held by It, which the trailer dropped back in November.
And that trailer was like freaking wildfire. That was like a California wildfire. That's what happened there.
I think we were all like, wow. I mean, we knew people were excited about it, but holy God,
crap.
I don't think we would have guessed that
No.
it would have had the views that it had.
Ew.
Yeah, the second trailer for Avengers Infinity War was viewed 175 million times in its first 24 hours.
That's surprising and yet kind of encouraging in a way.
You know, that's sad though. Is like, I get it. Like in terms of how many people were anticipating, and so to reach 175 million views is pretty great. But it just really, again, sort of underlines the fact of how DC is, in that I don't think I ever remember, maybe other than Batman v Superman, one of their trailers reaching those heights in terms of how many views it's had. So I'm hoping that they can start building their machine towards a way of being able to have those types of people waiting to see something, you know, of the next big DC movie.
Well, I mean, somewhat similar to that, what I was going to talk about next.
I was going to say,
Batman versus Superman, in terms of ticket sales, was up there in terms of
for sure
how many tickets it sold in that first like 24-hour period or whatever. But now, Avengers Infinity War is the best-selling superhero movie in terms of advance ticket sales when it went on sale. And that happened in like 6 hours or something.
right.
It's crazy.
What, Michelle, looked like you were going to say something?
I'm kind of on a different note. Like, so with Ready Player One, where do we feel like that falls? Is this a superhero film?
No.
Sci-fi.
I wouldn't think so.
Okay. I'm
Sci-fi,
just curious where y'all felt on that.
Sci-fi fantasy, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think of it as a superhero?
I feel like it could almost go that way.
No, I mean,
and I'm saying that not like, oh, this totally should be that way. I'm saying like, I could see it. I could see an argument being built for that. I don't have that argument like sitting in my arsenal right now, in the back of my head.
Say, I'd be curious to
I'll
have
leave
this
that for
argument with you.
others to argue
Like,
for me. But
I'm just saying, like, I don't have that argument in my head because I just thought of this 30 seconds ago. But I'm just, anyways. You do you. Continue.
No, I mean that's it. I mean, you bring up Ready Player One. Yeah, Ready Player One comes out this week. Comes out officially Thursday, but the first showings are Wednesday night. Are you okay, Michelle? You gonna be all right up there?
A whole other octave.
oh my god.
I'm not excited at all for this.
Yeah, no.
I can't even do that without smiling. I was trying not to. It's horrible. Can't do it.
All right. So the movie comes out this weekend. Next weekend. I was just gonna say I'm kind of curious to ask everyone to give a box office prediction.
Oh.
But if we do, then I'm kind of left going, well, do we do it for the 3-day, which would be the most talked about number, or because it's basically getting a 4-day release?
Right.
Do we predict the 4-day? I don't know.
I feel like it I think technically we should go 4-day, but I mean, most things are judged off a 3-day.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I've seen some tracking numbers where we did like a couple weeks ago, and it seemed like it was tracking between 35, 45 million. But I don't know if that tracking was based on a 3-day or 4-day.
Well.
But we don't have to give predictions. But I guess, Ready Player One's going to be an interesting one because this was a movie that if you had asked me back last summer after I saw that stuff at Comic-Con for the first time.
Before you had heard the book.
And I hadn't even heard the book yet.
I had just told you about the book.
I hadn't heard the book yet, but I just knew of the excitement about the book at the time. And then I saw that Comic-Con trailer and I'm like, this is Steven Spielberg and it's like 80s/90s, mostly 80s nostalgia and it's Steven Spielberg and it feels like old school Steven Spielberg in a way. Like, this is going to be a home run. Like, this seems like this is just going to be insane, right? And now we're to the film, and of course we're coming off the insane high that is Black Panther. But Black Panther is now, and it's now on its decline. It had an insanely good run, but I think a lot of us are left going, wow, it doesn't feel like Ready Player One has a lot of buzz around it. It just doesn't feel like it's not a part of the zeitgeist right now. It doesn't seem like everyone's talking about, oh my God, Ready Player One's coming. I mean, I see stuff like in my social media feeds, but I also follow like the Ready Player One Instagram and Ready Player One on Facebook, and a lot of people don't. So what are they seeing? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really, really curious more than most films to see how this ends up doing, because it's going to really bum me out if the film doesn't do that well. I mean, I'm saying this, I haven't seen it yet. Maybe I won't like it, and then I won't care. But, I mean, based off of the initial reactions we've heard online, I'm feeling pretty good.
Because it was at South by Southwest, right?
It did play at South by Southwest, yes.
Okay.
And, yeah, I really, really hope this movie does well. I hope people get excited about this, and I feel like no one is.
It's funny because I feel like I read this book, and I read it, and I was like, this is amazing. And I remember telling you guys, I think on the show, on air, going, y'all need to read this book. Like, and I was crossing my fingers you all would love it, because I just was like, oh my God, this book is so good. Like, it gives you all the feels and nostalgia, and it has everything that we all enjoy. It's got the 80s nostalgia. It's got movies, video games, comics. Like, everything is integrated into this. And so that's why I was like, you guys, I really hope you enjoy this. And, you know, you guys went into Hall H and you saw the thing. And then I guess you and Bobby were pushed to listen to the book. And then Jascha eventually finally jumped on board because he's a slow learner, apparently.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Michelle. Jesus Christ. I had said nothing here, and all of a sudden I'm getting attacked for no fucking reason whatsoever. But okay. Yes, I finally got to the book, and I listened to the book. I did not read it, but I did listen to it. And it's like, shit, man. I enjoyed it. I can't wait for the movie, but I think I can. You know, this is basically what David would be saying is, you know, I'm worried that the movie is going to be so different than what the book basically portrayed, and, you know, how the book was, because I've seen the trailers now, and it looks like there's some scenes in there that I'm like, well, that doesn't match up or align with anything that really happened in the book. So I'm kind of concerned about that.
You know, it was actually interesting sitting in on that panel because they addressed that. They actually had said something to the effect of the reasons why certain things in the book or in the movie are different than the book is because, for one, Steven Spielberg, a lot of the stuff that happens in the book has references to Steven Spielberg stuff. And Steven was trying to remove himself out of the movie as much as possible. So it didn't just feel like he was just kind of making like just really indulging about movies that he's done. So he was trying to take some of that out. And the writer, I think it was Zach Penn, and the writer of the book, Ernest Cline, they said that they were trying to brainstorm and trying to find different things that could fill in for some of the stuff that Steven had did. And they were like having a difficult time because they were like, okay, they'd think of something and then they'd go and look at it and then they'd see in the credits, oh, Steven Spielberg like was involved in some sort of way, and they were like, crap, you know, and they're like, okay, let's go look for something else. So they were saying it's very difficult to try and find stuff that Steven wasn't involved in, that they could actually put certain things in there. And then they also explain why in the book certain things are revealed at a certain point and why they couldn't do that in the film in terms of because of the medium and knowing who these actors are. You kind of have to play that delicate balance of being able to show these actors in this role because they have to have screen time. They're actors, so it's different medium from the book and why things had to be done in a certain sort of way, which actually made sense when they explained it. And yeah, I would say at the time back in Comic-Con, if you had asked me how much it would have made opening weekend, I would have guessed probably between 75 and 80 million. And now I think I'm probably thinking around 35 to 40 million as well. And so I think really my gut feeling is that no matter how it opens, it's going to end up making more than what an initial opening would have thought, because I think the word of mouth will carry it week to week until Avengers comes out.
See, I don't know. I'm really hesitant. First, let me backtrack and say, Yasha, I'm so sorry. I love you so much. I literally was just trying to poke the bear to make you talk because you've been so quiet. Two,
Fucking mission accomplished.
I know. Thanks. But I think overall, like, I'm with you guys. Like, I feel like when this trailer dropped and it was at Comic-Con and there was all this buzz around it, like, I feel like in that first week, I was like, oh my God, this movie can definitely do 100. Like, it's possible. Like, there is definitely a possibility it could do 100. And right now, I just don't even see it busting really much more past 38. And that makes me really sad because I feel like the story is there. And I feel like as far as nerds go, the Nerd Fest is there. Like, it should be happening. And it's just, I don't think it's going to. And it makes me, it's kind of heartbreaking to have this realization that this film is not going to go forward in the way that I think I was hoping it was going to, as far as people seeing it and making money. It's sad to me because I don't know. It has so many things that I think so many people want to see in the zeitgeist of the nerddom.
I mean, I think, Bobby, like you put it, I think the key here is that, yeah, it's not going to be a big box office smash the opening weekend, but the key is going to be that if it's a solid film and if it's a good film, that the word of mouth can hopefully really get people to the theater. I mean, that is basically what we're looking at with Black Panther. Yeah, Black Panther had a huge opening weekend and already had a lot of people that saw it that first weekend having not seen it yet. But the reason it is now the highest grossing superhero film ever is because the film is so good.
Right.
And people talked about this and everyone else is like, holy shit, I guess I got to go see Black Panther. And now everyone has seen Black Panther.
Right.
If this movie is really good, I think, the key is going to be that people will be on Facebook and other parts of social media and be like, oh my God, everybody, oh my, Ready Player One, it had this and the DeLorean and all this stuff. Oh my God, you have to see this. And then hopefully people will go.
I'm with you, but I also just feel like there should be a bigger push for this opening weekend. And I'm just not seeing Ready Player One trailers popping up everywhere I look. And that just, it's heartbreaking. I feel like the week leading up to Black Panther, that was every damn commercial. I swear to God, it was every like third commercial I saw either through a feed or on TV or what have you. It was constantly there. And I'm not seeing that here for this film. And it breaks my heart that they are not pushing this film harder. And it makes me question how the quality that we're going to get.
I don't know. Well, it's all gonna come to light next weekend,
I know.
And then the weeks after that, we'll see how the movie does and its full run. But
we can see it Wednesday.
Yep, seeing it Wednesday nights.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then I'm off for Thursday. That's gonna be nice. So I don't have to worry about going to work the next day.
Because you get the Good Friday holiday. Is that it?
Yeah, we're observing it on Thursday.
That whole religious thing, I don't know much about, but
anyway, so yeah, seeing it Wednesday night. I'm excited.
Wednesday night.
Dolby Cinema.
I'm gonna see it with my mama. She loves this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Cool.
It's gonna be fun. I know. My mom is a huge movie dude. Like, she is a nerd to such an extent. And she loves this stuff. And she loves, obviously, a lot of the 80s Spielberg stuff. And so, yeah, she's excited for this. I'm excited. We're all going to see it together. It's going to be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we will definitely be back next weekend to talk about Ready Player One and what we think of it.
Ready Player One. I'm going to start blowing up, like, all of my, like, internet stuff. And I'm just going to start pumping out promo.
You're going to be the marketing machine that Ready Player One
I'm going to be the marketing, like, wheel that's going to make this happen.
Right.
It's me. It's all me, baby.
Good luck. Make it happen.
Doing this week.
Sweet. All right, with that, we're going to wrap things up. As always, we'd love to hear back from anyone listening. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com. with your questions and comments. If not sure how you're listening to this podcast, but you can find this podcast all the time on iTunes, on Google Play Music, on the iHeartRadio app, and on YouTube. We would love if you subscribed and left us some feedback on those various services. That'd be great. And Michelle, sorry, you look like...
I was going to say, individually, we all have our own Twitters. We all have our own Instagrams and Facebook feeds that you're welcome to jump in on.
We do.
If you really want to get into us, because we're all kind of individually weird, but, you know, it's cool.
Yeah, that's true. You can...
I'm just saying, you know, we all got our own Twitters. It's cool.
We do. You can find us out there.
If you like all my little weird random political views that I have on Twitter.
Where can they find you, Michelle?
I don't even remember anymore.
You don't remember your name.
Oh, God.
That is fantastic.
She brings it up as she can.
I'm sorry.
My name has gone through some changes in the last year on a lot of my handles.
We will say you are mostly an Instagram user.
I am a huge Instagrammer.
That is definitely your.
If you're gonna follow me on Instagram. That's my thing.
Look for Michelle Hillard. I'm sure they'll find you.
Bobby's been tweeting like a mofo lately, though.
On Twitter, yep.
He's on the Twitter.
I've been trying to get more active with the Twitter. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I guess if you want to try and find me, or if you want to find me on Twitter, my Twitter is Bo Jackson. That's BOJAXSON, and you can find me there.
Sweet. Jascha, you got any Instagram, Twitter accounts you'd like to share with the world?
Just my Twitter handle. I mean, I am at JSWilson1515.
You can find me on Twitter at Dave Lott. You can find me on Instagram, which, yeah, I'd probably also would say I use more often than Twitter. And I just gave Michelle a bunch of crap, and I can't remember what I last changed mine to. I think it's Dave T. Lott.
You are Dave T. Lott, and yeah. I am Michelle Hillard too, and those are on Instagram.
Right.
To be fair, I did have to look it up. So I have my phone at hand, so I did have to reach for it to see what my handle was because I did not remember.
Yeah. But
we don't have to remember our own all the time.
Right.
But.
I mean, follow the Flickr effect. I'm just saying, like, if you're like, you know what? That Jascha, he and I.
That Jascha.
I want to know more about that guy.
We are on the same wavelength. And let me tell you, I want to know more. That's where to find him.
Exactly. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Jascha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks for listening. And that's a wrap for the show. Okay. Goodbye, YouTube.
Have a lovely night.
It's been fun.
Have a good night. Sleep well. Bye, YouTube.
See ya, YouTube.
Actually, you know what? Before we get off, Bobby so gave me crap for my drink. It took me an hour to drink this drink. Let's just clarify. It's all
I know is
I shot it down.
In 1 minute, I was looking at the live feed, and you took a glass that looked like it still had about a quarter left in it, and just tilted it back and just took it to the head. I was like, "Oh my god!"
You just happened to catch the feed right then.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, our YouTube people. They know it took me an hour to drink this. It wasn't like I just knocked it back in 10 minutes.
Well, no, it was just the timing of it because it sounded like David was about ready to wrap it up and go or something. And you're like, oh, gotta get finished this just drink and knock this down.
Because that's how I am. I restrict on my drinks to how long we record.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, YouTube, you're my witness. All right, y'all. Good night. Happy Easter.
Have a good night, guys.
And everything like that. All right.
All right.
Yeah. Good night,
See
YouTube. Bye bye. Peace.